Hi, it's Friday afternoon. I'm on my way home from work, so a little chance to unwind and relax a little bit from the daily stresses of modern day workloads. Anyway, having been a sales rep for close on 35 years, I'm quite outspoken about how often sales reps are perceived in the market. We're often known as liars, people that don't always tell the truth, rip people off, and yeah, I think there is a lot of that. I think there's a lot of people out there that just would prefer, or not prefer, but sell product they want to sell rather than what the customer needs. But I think in a lot of cases the customer also needs to take a little bit of responsibility for that situation occurring. And what I mean by that is often the customers phone in and specifically ask for product, and if the guy who takes the call or speaks to the customer doesn't ask the customer what does he need the product for, and if the customer doesn't get upset that the seller is asking that question, then we can sometimes we can resolve a lot of issues. Because I think a lot of the time buyers don't always make their needs clear, and sellers aren't inquisitive enough to understand what the buyer's needs are. I'm going to give you a little example. I always use this example. Let's say I'm building a wall for the first time at home. Bought the bricks, I bought the cement, I bought the sand. I've never laid a brick in my life before, but I go to the hardware store, and in my naive and ignorant situation, I believe a screwdriver will help me lay bricks. I go to the hardware store and I ask where I can buy a screwdriver, and the guy who I speak to, or the salesperson who I speak to, doesn't ask me what I'm going to use the screwdriver for. Shows me where the aisles are for the screwdrivers. I go and I buy a screwdriver, and I go home, I mix the cement, and I find that the screwdriver doesn't actually help me with laying of the bricks, and I'm quite upset, and I tell all my mates and all my acquaintances that particular hardware store are a bunch of useless so-and-sos because they sold me the wrong stuff. I don't tell my mates that I went in there asking for a screwdriver. I don't tell my mates that I didn't want to take advice from anybody. I don't tell the guys what I was going to need the screwdriver for. But the salesman at the hardware store also did not ask me what I wanted the screwdriver for. So he allowed my ignorance to continue by supplying me what I asked for. And it's not what I needed. It's what I thought I needed. And I didn't communicate that to him. I'm going to give you another example, very similar in our for people who are in our industry will probably understand it a little bit better. But I once received a call from a customer many years ago, and he specifically asked me. He phoned in and he asked me for 100 TPMRs, a specific insert called a TPMR. And I asked him, I said, what are you using it for? And he was extremely upset by me asking him, sort of like, am I insinuating that he doesn't know what he wants? Because he came back and he said, look, I know what I want. My father's had this business for the last 35, 40 years, and this is what he's always used. And I've taken over, I think it was about 12 years into his Tom, that and he said he's been using the same product all the time, so he knows what he wants. And please give me a quote for 100 TPMRs. So I gave him the price of the TPMRs, and I don't know, something must have jogged in his mind, and he said to me, well, why did you ask me anyway? I said, well, I'm curious. Number one, I'm curious, and number two, I want to know that what you've asked for is what you need and not what you want. So he said, well, it's strange that you should say this, but I'm buying these TPMRs every month from you, and I think I should be getting better tool life. So then I asked him, well, what are you using the TPMRs for? He says, no, I've got a 50 millimeter diameter cutter here. And the minute he said a 50 millimeter cutter, I realized it was a milling cutter, and a TPMR is actually not for milling, it's for turning. So I told him, I said to him, well, that's the reason why I asked, because the TPMR, you shouldn't be using it. It fits in a milling cutter, but you shouldn't be using a TPMR in a milling cutter, because a TPMR is primarily a turning insert. And you can get away with it, but if you're using that sort of quantity a month, you're obviously doing quite a lot of milling, and I wouldn't be using a turning insert for a milling operation. So then he said to me, well, what would you suggest? I said, well, either a TPKN or a TPKR, or one of the old ISO milling inserts. So anyway, after a while, he decided to buy the TPKN or the TPKR. I can't actually remember. And about 2 months later, he actually phoned me to thank me for asking that question. This is the problem with buying and selling. Often the sellers don't ask the right the sellers don't ask the right questions, and the buyers are often too proud to ask what they need, because they believe they know what they need. But often in this life, if you never ask any questions and all you do is repeat and use what your predecessor used, that kind of thinking would I'm very happy that somebody invented the wheel, because otherwise we'd probably all still be riding on horseback and picking up horse dung. So I think we do get a rap often, and it sticks with us, because I know in 35 years we're always getting this situation from the market that we don't really know what we're doing, and we're just selling stuff to suit ourselves, and we're not trying to benefit our customers. And that should be the furthest thing from the truth, because in the end, if a sales rep only sells what benefits the organization he represents and not the user of the product, he's going to go out of business, one, or if he's successful enough, his customers will go out of business, because his customers will not be using the right products. And in current situation we have, where this world is such a competitive playing field, if the guys in each country, and we've got to talk South Africa here because I'm a South African, if the South African manufacturers have a mentality that, well, we don't want to change, we want to use what was used previously. We must remember that what was used previously was great for the machines and the materials and of yesteryear. We can't keep using what was designed and developed 10 years ago. We can't, technology is moving so fast, we shouldn't be using what was developed 5 years ago. Today's modern day machinery allows you to move up a step and make things quicker, make things with better quality, and with tooling that lasts longer, operates quicker. It's just, we need to make sure we're always at the cutting edge of technology. Pointless buying a 2, 3, 4, 5 million rand valued machine that can do wonders, but without the right tools, those wonders will never be achieved. And I often see organizations spending time, lots of time, setting up project teams to decide on the best possible capital equipment to be used. And they go through meeting after meeting, project, everybody looking into all the pros and cons of all the different offers from machine tool guys. And once they've made that decision to buy the capital equipment, they place no value in the decision process for the cutting tools. And the cutting tools, at the end of the day, is the tire in that whole process. You have this fantastic machine, you have fantastic material, but the piece that meets the two and puts the two together and allows you to machine a quality component in the quickest possible time at the best possible quality is the tool. And you put no importance in that. Often people are looking at pricing of tools and they just look at the price. They don't look at what that commodity can do for them. I mean, when you consider that a machine, whatever, let's say a machine costs you 2 million rand. If that machine is on your floor for 10 to 15 years, and in a lot of cases it's probably more than that, and if it's busy for those 10 to 15 years, you're probably spending the equivalent of 10 million rand in tooling on a 2 million rand machine. You set up a project team to make the decision to purchase the right machine, but you do none of that, and you place no importance in the decision-making process on the tooling. Often you don't look at productivity, you don't look at how quickly you can make a product, you don't look at consistency of quality, you purely look at the price. And maybe the price of the tooling represents 5% of your overall costs. Doesn't make sense to me, but you know, that's the way it is. I dare say I don't think that's the way the people in first world first world countries are looking at it. And the danger is, if somebody somewhere else in the world can make a product at the same quality or better at less time, it threatens the existence of the organization that's doing it in South Africa.